Do you know how many Jonathan Larsons there are? One.
Welcome to Ms. Mojo, and today we're discussing the artist who forever changed the trajectory of musical theater, Jonathan Larson. For this list, we'll be looking at Larson's origins and the events leading up to him creating one of the longest-running and celebrated Broadway musicals of all time, Rent. Before we get started, let us know in the comments what your favorite Larson song is. Early life. Jonathan David Larson was welcomed into the world on February 4th, 1960 in New York State.
We grew up in White Plains, which was about half an hour north of the city, and our mom really was the one who instilled a love of the arts.
From a young age, Larson felt a gravitational pull towards the arts, especially music. Playing everything from the tuba to the trumpet, he quickly became a jack of all musical trades.
He was in band and orchestra.
He was in chorus and he started playing trumpet. And as he got older, they really needed a tuba player. So he was asked to play the tuba because he was big and tall.
Also a participant in his school's choir, he took piano lessons and became enthralled by singer-songwriters such as Elton John, Billy Joel, and composers like Stephen Sondheim.
I never thought very highly of awards, but I must say, it's awfully nice to win one. Thank you.
Just when it seemed like Jonathan's extracurricular plate was already full, he took up acting, appearing in several productions throughout his high school career.
This was probably the first production he was ever in, and although it doesn't look like it, it's The Wizard of Oz on the beach in Cape Cod.
College years. After graduating from high school, Larson continued to pursue his love of the performing arts by enrolling in Adelphi University.
John went to Adelphi University, which is on Long Island, and they had a wonderful little conservatory program for theater.
Located in Garden City, Long Island, the school awarded him an acting scholarship.
He got a full scholarship. He blew everybody out of the water. We were taken by his energy, his commitment, his skill set as an 18, 19-year-old.
It was at this time that Jonathan began to dabble in composition. He mounted a handful of student cabarets to experiment and showcase his newfound passion. Eventually, the budding skill allowed him to compose the score of his first full musical written by his college mentor and department head, Jacques Burdick.
Jacques Burdick, who was head of the department, had written a piece and asked John to do the music. A huge honor for John at the time.
Libro de Buen Amor. It was this beautiful celebratory ritual. It was almost like a mass.
Upon earning his BFA and graduating, Jonathan quickly earned his equity status by providing his piano playing services in summer stock theater. Shortly after, he packed his bags and dreams and headed to the beating heart of musical theater, New York City.
John was very clear that he was going to change the face of American musical theater.
Struggling artist. Adapting to the hustle and bustle of city living, Larson met many challenges during his move to Manhattan.
It was really bohemian. I mean, it was the starving artist thing, but he wasn't putting it on.
The aspiring composer made many sacrifices to keep his dreams afloat, from surviving without heat to living in cramped quarters. By day, he worked as a server at New York's famous Moondance Diner, where he served tables for almost a decade.
Poached eggs, actually. They're my favorite.
Most people don't make home movies of their last day on the job.
During this time, he met waiter and aspiring actor Jesse L. Martin, who would star in the original company of Rent.
I started training to wait tables at the Moondance Diner. And they said, oh, you'll work with Jonathan. He's like the best. And he told me that he was a composer. And you know how you do that thing where you're like, oh yeah, you're a composer. Like you're waiting tables.
When he wasn't serving, Larson focused on his craft, which kept him motivated despite his impoverished living conditions. Early works. Like many artists, Jonathan Larson faced ups and downs.
Jonathan was Jonathan. He'd see a piano and he'd sit down and he played by ear and he played. He'd just pound out his kind of music.
He was awarded praise for Sacra Moral Minority, later named Saved, an immoral musical on the moral majority. Enjoying a successful mount at his alma mater, Larson and his collaborator David Glenn Armstrong were overjoyed when the show received a residency at a little theater. Afterwards, Larson created a musical adaptation of George Orwell's famous novel 1984, but renamed and rejigged the project into what's now known as Superbia, because the author's family did not authorize it.
The year 2064. The country? Superbia.
Receiving notable buzz, the show earned some Richard Rodgers accolades and grants. Despite the excitement, Jonathan's dreams of a full production were dashed, and he was forced to move on.
I have an original rock musical
Hey, boy genius.
that I have spent the last 8 years of my life writing.
Luckily, he accepted his broken heart, using it to inspire his next creation.
This is that moment. It's the first time people are going to see the show that aren't just us.
Tick, Tick, Boom. Originally titled 3090, Tick, Tick, Boom was written as a direct response to Larson's pain over the inactive state of Superbia. Putting himself in the spotlight, Jonathan performed the show off-Broadway, and it began to attract a lot of attention from audiences and producers.
It's not that I don't share my feelings, I just convert them into songs. Is this normal? Has turning 30 always sucked?
It ended up traveling across the off-Broadway circuit. The success of Tick, Tick, Boom gave Jonathan the push to continue working on other projects, and he began to make a name for himself in the New York theater scene.
Someday, in the blue, silver chromium diamond, on the green, purple, yellow, red stools, sit the fools.
And then, like lightning itself, an idea came into contact with Jonathan that would change not only his career, but also his life.
Why should we blaze a trail? There's not enough time. I went to 3 friends' funerals last year, and nobody is doing enough. I'm not doing enough.
Rent. Decades before Jonathan Larson was born, another composer was working away on his own composition. The year was 1896, and Italian composer Giacomo Puccini had just premiered his pièce de résistance, La Bohème.
And then one of them ends up falling in love with Mimi. Rodolfo lights her candle and they fall in love. And in the fourth and final act, Mimi's dying. And it's very moving by the end.
Chronicling the lives of impoverished artists, the 4-act opera would become one of the most commonly produced shows ever. The work inspired playwright Billy Aronson, who wanted to transform La Bohème into a modern musical.
I've used all materials that Henri Murger wrote to inspire me, but I've also used Puccini to inspire. But still, the ultimate fun and ultimate challenge was to ask, in our society today.
Seeking a musical collaborator, Aronson was put in touch with Jonathan.
And I remember someone connected him with Billy Aronson about a new project. It was sort of updating La Bohème.
Feeling a deep connection to it, especially the theme of poverty, Billy allowed Jonathan to take over. After writing, editing, and workshopping, Rent received a public staging in the early 90s. As the world was about to discover Larson's genius and his dreams were coming to fruition, however, tragedy struck.
One song, glory. One song before I go, glory. One song to leave behind.
His death. Days prior to Rent's off-Broadway debut, Jonathan began to experience chest pains and other concerning symptoms. Seeking medical attention, Larson was told he had the flu.
But he was really very upset and very worried.
John kept saying, something's not right. I said, then go back. Go back. And he ultimately did go back to another emergency room.
However, it was later discovered that he had received a misdiagnosis.
And we all know what happened at the 2 hospitals. It was, a terrible misdiagnosis, or they just overlooked all the conditions.
On January 25th, 1996, the same day Rent was set to preview off-Broadway, the world of theater was forever changed. Suffering from an aortic dissection that could have been treated if properly diagnosed, Larson passed away at 35 years old. With his family's permission, the company of Rent opened the show by deciding to sing through Larson's score rather than performing the entire musical.
We dedicate this opening night and every performance to our friend Jonathan Larson.
A moment for the cast and Jonathan Larson's family to remember the one person who isn't there to see it.
The aftermath. Following its successful off-Broadway run, Rent moved to Broadway a few months later, taking up residency at the Nederlander Theater, where it would remain from 1996 to 2008.
No other way, no day but today.
The rock musical blew away both audiences and critics, not only for Larson's groundbreaking score, but also for themes including poverty, gentrification, queer rights, addiction, and the AIDS crisis. Larson went on to posthumously earn a handful of Tony Awards, including Best Musical and the Pulitzer Prize for Drama. Rent went on to tour across the country with productions popping up worldwide, and is one of the longest-running musicals in the history of the Great White Way.
525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. His legacy. 25 years after his death, Jonathan Larson's genius is as impactful as ever.
Jonathan wanted to have very human conversations and themes in all of his work.
That's the greatest legacy Jonathan leaves us.
Aside from its success on Broadway, Rent received a big screen adaptation by Chris Columbus in 2005. In 2021, another one of Larson's pieces, Tick, Tick, Boom, made its big screen debut. Directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda and with Andrew Garfield playing Larson's counterpart.
Hello. Hi. Welcome. I'm Jonathan Larson.
It goes without saying that his work paved the way for pretty much every contemporary musical since. However, perhaps the most significant part of his legacy resides in the Jonathan Larson Performing Arts Foundation.
My brother Jonathan loved musical theater, and he dreamed of creating a youthful, passionate piece that would be pertinent and would bring a new generation to the theater.
Set up by his family and friends, the initiative provides grants and funding to help writers and composers bring new stories and music to the stage and keep Jonathan's passion for theater burning bright.
But there certainly is a recurring theme of make the most of the time that you've got. And for him, I'm happy to say that I think he did.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from Ms. Mojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.